Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to Get Hit with the Truth. So today we are doing the Canelo Sweepstakes. I know I think I did this a few weeks ago, but now that we have solid, good options, I really believe it warrants a new video because he has not decided on an opponent yet. Now, we're going to talk about the couple options that are there. I personally have narrowed it down to 3 possibilities. And then we'll talk about the 2 other guys that are probably not getting the fight. So, we'll start with, in my opinion, we'll start with the most noteworthy in terms of, let's go 5-1 in terms of guys that have 0 chance of getting the fight, but are the consensus of what people argue Canelo should do, if that makes sense. So we start with Demetrius Andrade, and no surprise here, he's still not in the Canelo Sweepstakes. The guy hasn't done anything at super middleweight, just like he didn't do anything at middleweight, just like he didn't do anything at junior middleweight, really. So for those people that still believe that Andrade is being ducked by Canelo, it's a joke. Andrade needs to go beat somebody legit. He really does. And now that he's in the PBC, there are guys that aren't even highly regarded super middleweights, but have names that Andrade could fight. And if he beat them, he'd be right there. I don't think he would get Caleb Plant next, but there's Anthony Durrell, if Durrell's still fighting. There's Caleb Truax, who's a former super middleweight champ. He's older. That would be a decent opponent for him next. And then if he really wants to test himself, well, there's a couple other guys. There's Jose Ustadegi, who would, Andre would be the favorite. And then also, there's Vladimir Shishkin, who beat Jose Ustadegi. And actually, if he were to beat Shishkin, he probably moves in line for a title shot. So Andrade, there's no excuses now. He should be fighting somebody, and he's not. So that's why he's not in the mix. But then we look at the one that people want to see Canelo fight the most, and this goes for myself included. If I had to pick one guy that I wanted to see Canelo fight above all others, it'd be David Benavidez. Now, Benavidez is not getting a fight. Now, everybody knows that Benavidez, his people, supposedly sent an offer to Canelo for $50 million for them to fight each other. And I understand the frustration out of people, and I do understand people thinking, especially after Benavidez beating Caleb Plant, I understand people thinking that Canelo might be ducking Benavidez. But here's why I don't think that he is ducking Benavidez. Canelo, at the end of the day, his best weight is 168. He can make it comfortably, and he's legitimately strong at that weight. And even though most fighters are bigger than him at that weight, he can definitely do damage and make a solid impact. He's proven that ever since he's moving up. I believe overall, I want to say he's 5-0. He defeated, or 6-0. He defeated Rocky Fielding. He defeated Callum Smith. What's that guy's name? Avni Yildirim. Then he knocked out Billy Joe Saunders, Caleb Plant, Triple G, and he just beat John Ryder. So he is 7-0 as a super middleweight, and I don't really see him, that's the weight he's going to come back to no matter what. He's just holding on to his belts. But you got to understand, the reason why Benavidez is not the next guy in line is 2 things. One, I think Canelo wants that to be a May fight for Cinco de Mayo weekend, so they have months and months to build the fight. And I get that. You don't want Benavidez on a short swing. You don't. This is not Triple G from last year, who had a huge name. You knew the fight was likely going to happen, even though he lost to Bivol. And that's not the same thing here. Benavidez is a big name, and Canelo would want to fight a guy with a big name that he could build the fight around and with. That's a big all-Mexican showdown right there. So I think the May fight makes more sense. That's one. But 2, Canelo wants to accomplish a couple things in the higher weight classes before he moves back down and finish his career at 168. I don't think Canelo has aspirations of moving up to 175 and that being a full-time weight for him, or even 200. He's already lost that 175 now. The Kovalev fight was not an easy fight for him. He ended up getting a brutal knockout, but Kovalev was absolutely in that fight and fighting on 10 weeks notice after a tough fight prior to that. So imagine Canelo fighting the best guys at 175. He's taking a major risk. But also, you know, how many big names are there at light heavyweight and cruiserweight? There's not. But Canelo has the opportunity with Dimitri Bivol and Badu Jack to move up and extract revenge on Bivol, become a two-time light heavyweight champion, and then the fight with Jack, if that happens, that's him becoming a 5-division world champion. And I think the most any Mexican has ever done is 4 weight classes. So Canelo is trying to make history, and people can knock him and knock him down all they want about not fighting Benavidez, but I understand why. And for the Benavidez fans, Canelo's only hurting himself more in terms of the Benavidez fight by not fighting him now himself. So the longer he waits, the older he gets, and maybe the better Benavidez gets. And I honestly think Canelo's best opportunity to beat Benavidez is at 168. If that fight were to take place at 175, or not at all, then Canelo really is going to be called a ducker of Benavidez if he doesn't fight him at all. But if that fight takes place at 175, I think Canelo's in trouble, because Benavidez is a big boy, and I think he'll fill out 175 way better than he does 168. So the Benavidez fight, that's why, even though I want to see it happen, I'm okay with it not happening. That's something Canelo can maybe focus on next year. Now, let's take a look at the 3 possibilities that are going on. Right now, it seems like the third best option would be a rematch with Dimitri Bivol. Canelo and his people don't seem to be budging on offering Bivol the same amount of money. Canelo, in my opinion, and I'll be straight with everybody, I'm a big Canelo fan, but I really don't think he wants Bivol again, because this fight should be easy to make, and they absolutely should be doubling the money that Bivol made the first time. He only got $5 million. They should be bumping that up to $10 million for the rematch. People would be interested in watching a rematch, so it's going to generate more money. And he should be fighting him at 168 to maximize his opportunity of beating Bivol. And here's what I don't get. If Canelo brings Bivol down to 168 and beats him, which I would favor him at 168 to beat Bivol, then they could have the rematch at 175, and Canelo could say, hey, at 168, I'm better than Bivol. At 175, I'm not. 175 is not my weight. So, and it sets up a third fight, which generates more money. Why Canelo doesn't want to go down that road, I don't know, other than I don't think he really wants to fight Bivol again. To not offer him more money when the guy beat you the first time, and then to not agree to what Bivol wants, which is 168 for all 4 of Canelo's belts, and Canelo's best weight, that calculates to me that Canelo doesn't really want to fight Bivol again. You know, and I really don't think, even if he goes to 175, what's the big deal? You move up to 175, you fight him again, he beats you again, and leaves no doubt. I don't really think that's hurting Canelo. That's not Canelo's weight, and Canelo can argue, hey, you know, I went after it, I did the best I could. He was just a better fighter. Not much I can do about that. Plain and simple, no ifs, ands, or buts, and no excuses right there. So, my opinion, I think right now this, I hate saying it, but I think it's the third most likely option that Canelo's going to get Bivol. But I do think it's a real option. Benavidez and Andrade aren't options in my opinion anymore. I believe Bivol still is a big option for Canelo. Now, number 2 right now, and I'm very surprised by saying this, and I'm actually kind of sad that I'm saying this. The number 2 option right now, I think, is middleweight champion Jermall Charlo. I don't want this fight, and I don't like this fight, even though I'd love to see Charlo get his ass knocked out. But if Canelo decides on Charlo for September, it's a mistake, and I'll tell you why. Because most people felt when Charlo was at his hottest that if Canelo fought him, it doesn't make sense because Charlo's not a big enough name. Canelo smashes on him, people are going to be like, so what, the guy hasn't fought anybody. But now, Charlo hasn't fought, and by the time that fight would take place, 27 months would be the last time he fought. And prior to that, he basically has only fought 2 times in 3 calendar years. The last time he fought prior to that was against Derevyanchenko in September of 2020. So for Canelo to fight Charlo now, Charlo already has a built-in excuse, and he already had one from a lot of detractors that would say he hasn't fought anybody. Now everybody's going to say, oh, well, Canelo waited until he hadn't fought in over 2 years to fight him, and he beat him. I'll tell you this, Canelo's going to beat the shit out of Charlo whenever they fight, wherever they fight. But to fight him after a 2-year layoff is a mistake for Canelo's legacy, because people will have that built-in excuse for Charlo. Charlo doesn't care. Charlo just wants the money. That's all he cares about. He wants that big Canelo payday, and he also would love a built-in excuse for himself because he's lazy and he really doesn't want to fight. He just wants the big dogs. So, but sadly, he has moved to almost the front of the line and become a real possibility for Canelo in September, sadly. We'll see. But the final and best option, or number 1 option, I'm not going to call it the best one, is for Canelo to move up to cruiserweight and take on newly crowned champion, 39-year-old Badou Jack for the WBC cruiserweight title. Canelo has already explored fighting at cruiserweight last year. And at the end of 2021, heading into 2022, after he had knocked out Caleb Plant to become undisputed champ, Canelo was flirting with the idea of moving up to cruiserweight to fight, moving up to cruiserweight to fight Ilunga Makabu. Makabu fought Tabiso Mashunu in a rematch. Canelo was actually there, I believe. And it was a lackluster performance out of Makabu. He didn't look good. And Canelo decided to go with the Bivol fight and signed a 2-fight deal to fight Bivol and then Triple G in the 3rd fight last year. But Badou Jack is different than Makabu. First off, Badou Jack knocked the Makabu the fuck out. He beat his ass and knocked him out. And I believe it was in February of this year. Yeah, it was on the Paul undercard. And now he's a 3-division world champion. He's a veteran. He comes in great shape. He's marketable because people do know him. He's not a huge name, but people do know him, so he's way more marketable than Makabu was. And Canelo has the opportunity to become the first ever 5-division Mexican world champion. That's legacy and history that he's fighting for right there, and he's taking a big risk doing it because Jack, even at 39, is a tough opponent, you know? And right now, I think the only hang-up is where the catchweight would take place. That's the only hang-up right now between these 2 sides. And I don't even know if it's a hang-up. Maybe Canelo's totally down for a catchweight. Maybe Jack is. To get a Canelo fight, I think Jack, and especially the shape that Jack comes in. Also, this is only, I would believe this is, I think Jack's only fought at cruiserweight maybe 3 or 4 times now. So, you know, and the fact that he is in such great shape all the time, I don't think Canelo would, you know, I don't think this is a difficult fight to make, and I think it is the front runner. I do think there's a strong possibility this fight happens. I would hope the catchweight maybe could be the old cruiserweight limit, which was 190. I think 185 might be asking too much of Jack to drop down to, but maybe somewhere in the middle. Maybe, you know, Canelo, that's 17 pounds. He's coming up to go up to 185, and that's, I believe that's, what, you add another 5, that's 22 pounds if he decides to move all the way up to 190. So they definitely got to meet in the middle somewhere. I think that's a must. But I do believe that the Jack fight is the most likely one that's going to take place next. I don't want to see Charlo, but that would draw a lot. And I would like to see Dimitri Bivol, but you know, I just don't know if the 2 sides are going to come together if Canelo doesn't pony up more money. And Benavidez, like I said, is out, and Andrade is definitely out. So we'll see what happens, but that's it. That's my video on the Canelo Sweepstakes and what Canelo could be doing next. And you know, I hope everybody enjoyed the video. If you guys did, smash the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.